The shuttle hit the jungle canopy at 300 miles per hour, and Sergeant Cole knew he was going to die. He felt the metal twist around him and heard the screams of his crew as fire erupted through the cabin. Then everything went black. When he woke up, he was hanging upside down from his safety harness. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead, and his ears were ringing so loud he could barely think. He reached up with shaking hands and released the buckle. He fell hard onto the ceiling of the overturned shuttle and groaned in pain. Cole was 32 years old and had served as a field medic with the 77th Expeditionary Unit for 8 years. He had seen bad crashes before, but this was the worst. He crawled through the wreckage and checked each of his one by one. Pilot Danny Reeves was gone. Navigator Santos was gone. Supply Officer Tanner was gone. Cole was alone. He sat in the mud outside the burning shuttle and stared at the alien jungle around him. The Moon of 4 was a nightmare of thick trees, poisonous plants, and creatures that wanted to eat anything that moved. It was also deep inside enemy territory. The Empire controlled this entire sector, and they would be coming to investigate the crash soon. Cole forced himself to stand. He had to move. He had to survive. The nearest human outpost was about 20 miles to the east, and if he moved fast, he might make it before the patrols found him. He gathered what supplies he could find. A canteen of water, a combat knife. His pistol had been crushed in the crash, so he had no real weapon. He would have to be smart and quiet and lucky. Cole started walking east. The jungle was hot and wet and filled with strange sounds. Every shadow looked like an enemy. Every rustle in the bushes made his heart pound. He moved carefully, staying low, watching for any sign of danger. After about an hour, he heard something that made him stop. It was a weak sound, almost like a cry, coming from somewhere ahead. Cole knew he should ignore it. He should keep moving. But he was a medic. He had spent his whole adult life responding to cries for help. He could not just walk away. He followed the sound through a thick patch of undergrowth and found another crash site. This one was a scout vessel, smaller than his shuttle but just as wrecked. The silver hull was cracked open, and smoke rose from the engine compartment. Cole approached carefully with his knife ready. Inside the wreckage, he found her. She was young, maybe the equivalent of 18 human years, with pale blue skin and silver eyes that reflected the dim light like mirrors. Delicate bone ridges ran along her temples, and her white hair was matted with purple blood. She was trapped under a fallen support beam, and her left leg was bent at a terrible angle. She looked up at Cole with fear in her strange, beautiful eyes. Cole stood there for a long moment. She was the enemy. Her people had killed thousands of humans in this war. They had bombed colonies and destroyed civilian ships and shown no mercy to prisoners. Every soldier in the Terran coalition had been taught to hate the. But she was also hurt. She was also young, and she was also going to die if nobody helped her. Cole put away his knife and knelt beside her. She flinched and tried to pull away, but the beam held her in place. He held up his hands to show he meant no harm. "Easy," he said softly. "I am not going to hurt you. I am a medic. I help people." She did not understand his words. Her translation device was clipped to her collar, but the screen was cracked and dark. She just stared at him with those silver eyes, waiting to see what he would do. Cole examined the beam. It was heavy but not impossible to move. He braced himself and lifted with all his strength. The metal groaned and shifted just enough for her to pull herself free. She cried out in pain as her broken leg dragged across the floor. He moved quickly, falling back on years of training. He cleaned the wound on her leg and set the bone as gently as he could. She gripped the floor and made a sound that might have been a scream in her language, but she did not fight him. He splinted the leg with pieces of metal from the wreckage and wrapped it tight with bandages from his. When he was done, he sat back and looked at her. She was pale from blood loss and shaking from pain, but she would live. The question was what to do now. She could not walk. That much was clear. And Cole could not leave her here to die. He had made his choice the moment he decided to help her, and now he had to follow through. The human outpost was still 20 miles away. 20 miles through hostile jungle, with enemy patrols everywhere, carrying a wounded alien on his back. It was insane. It was probably suicide. Cole did it anyway. He fashioned a carrying harness from the straps of his pack and helped her onto his back. She was lighter than he expected, maybe 90 pounds, but she was still a heavy burden on top of his own injuries. He adjusted her weight and started walking east again. The girl wrapped her arms around his neck to hold on. Her skin was cool against his, and she smelled like something floral, like a flower he could not name. Her breath was warm on his ear as she whispered something in her language. Her translation device flickered to life for just a moment, long enough to convert one word into English. Why? Cole did not answer. He did not have an answer. He just kept walking, one step at a time, carrying his enemy through the jungle because it was the right thing to do. Behind them, the smoke from both crash sites rose into the alien sky. Somewhere in the distance, patrol ships were already searching for survivors. And somewhere ahead, 20 long miles away, safety waited. Cole did not know if he would make it. He did not know if either of them would survive the night. But he knew one thing for certain. He was not going to leave her behind. The jungle swallowed them up as they moved deeper into the green darkness. A human medic carrying a wounded alien girl, two enemies bound together by circumstance and one simple act of mercy. The war had brought them together. What happened next would be up to them. Cole adjusted her weight on his back and kept walking, 20 miles, one step at a time. He had carried wounded soldiers through worse. He had survived missions that should have killed him. He would survive this too. He had to. The jungle seemed to go on forever. Cole walked through the thick undergrowth with the alien girl on his back, and every step sent pain shooting through his tired legs. His feet were already starting to blister inside his boots, and his shoulders ached from her weight. But he kept moving. The girl drifted in and out of sleep. When she was awake, she watched the jungle around them with those strange silver eyes. When she slept, her head rested against his shoulder and her breathing was soft and steady. Cole was glad she could rest. He wished he could do the same. As he walked, his mind wandered back to memories he usually tried to forget. He thought about his little sister Emma. She had been 16 when the sickness took her. Cole had been 18, just a kid himself, and he had watched her fade away over 3 long months. The doctors said there was nothing they could do. The medicine came too late. She died in a hospital bed with Cole holding her hand. That was why he became a medic. He never wanted to feel that helpless again. He never wanted to watch someone die and know he could not save them. Every life he saved since then was a small victory against that old pain. The alien girl reminded him of Emma in some strange way. Maybe it was her age. Maybe it was the way she looked at him with confusion and fear, like she could not understand why he was helping her. Maybe it was just his tired mind playing tricks on him. But he could not shake the feeling that he was carrying his sister through this jungle, trying to save her the way he could not save Emma all those years ago. "Stop thinking about it," he muttered to himself. "Just keep walking." After 5 miles, he stopped to rest beside a small stream. He set the girl down gently against a tree and filled his canteen with water. He added a purification tablet and waited for it to work. Then he helped her drink. Her translation device had been slowly repairing itself, and now it could handle short phrases. She pointed to herself and said something in her musical language. The device crackled and produced a single word. "Lyra." Cole nodded. "Lyra, that is your name." She nodded back, then she pointed at him. "Cole," he said, "my name is Cole." She tried to repeat it, but her mouth was not shaped for human sounds. It came out more like Cole, and he smiled despite everything. It was close enough. They rested for 10 minutes, and then Cole lifted her onto his back again. The jungle was getting darker as the sun moved across the sky. He needed to cover as much ground as possible before nightfall. "Tell me about your home," Lyra said suddenly. Her translator was working better now, though her words came out flat and mechanical. Cole was surprised by the question. "Earth, it is far away, another arm of the galaxy." "What is it like?" He thought about it as he walked. "It has oceans, big bodies of water that cover most of the surface, and mountains that reach up to the sky, and snow in the cold places, white frozen water that falls from the clouds." "Snow," she repeated. "We do not have this." "It is beautiful, cold but beautiful." She was quiet for a while, then she asked, "Why do your people fight?" Cole did not know how to answer that. The war between humans had been going on for 3 years. It started with a border dispute and grew into something much larger. Thousands had died on both sides. Nobody even remembered what they were fighting for anymore. "I do not know," he admitted. "We fight because we are afraid, because we do not understand each other, because once the fighting starts it is hard to stop." Lyra said nothing. Cole wondered what she was thinking behind those silver eyes. They walked for 2 more hours. The jungle grew thicker and the air grew heavier. Cole was sweating through his uniform and his legs felt like they were made of stone, but he kept going. 14 miles to go. Then he heard the sound that made his blood run cold. Engines, engines. He dove into a hollow log that lay rotting on the jungle floor and pulled Lyra in with him. She gasped in pain as her broken leg hit the wood, but Cole clamped his hand over her mouth to keep her quiet. Through a crack in the log, he watched the patrol ship pass overhead. Its searchlights swept through the trees, looking for survivors. Lyra's silver eyes met his in the darkness. She could call out. She could scream and bring her people to rescue her. They would kill Cole and take her home, and that would be the end of it. She stayed silent. The patrol ship moved on, its engines fading into the distance. Cole waited 5 more minutes before he dared to move. He removed his hand from her mouth and looked at her with new eyes. "Why did you not call them?" he asked. Her translator hummed as it processed her words. "They would kill you. You saved me. I do not understand this thing you have done, but I will not repay kindness with death." Cole stared at her for a long moment. He had been taught that were cold and ruthless, that they cared nothing for honor or mercy. But this girl had just chosen to protect him, an enemy, because he had helped her. Maybe everything he had been taught was wrong. He helped her out of the log and lifted her onto his back again. They had lost time hiding from the patrol, and now the sun was almost gone. They would have to travel through the night if they wanted to reach the outpost. "Thank you," Cole said quietly. Lyra did not answer, but her arms tightened around his neck just a little, and Cole thought he understood. They were not just enemies anymore. They were something else, something new, 2 people from different worlds trying to survive together. Cole walked on into the gathering darkness. 14 miles still to go, but for the first time since the crash, he did not feel quite so alone. The night sounds of the jungle rose around them as the stars appeared in the alien sky. Somewhere out there, both their peoples were hunting for them. Somewhere out there, the war continued its terrible work. But here in the jungle, one human and one moved together through the shadows, and neither of them would betray the other. That meant something. Cole was not sure what, but he knew it meant something important. He kept walking. The acid rain started without warning. Cole heard the hissing sound first as the drops hit the leaves above them and began to burn through. He had read about this in his survival training. The rain on 4 was toxic to human skin and could cause serious burns in minutes. He ran through the jungle with Lyra bouncing on his back, searching for shelter. His lungs burned and his legs screamed in protest, but he kept running. Then he saw it. A cave mouth in the side of a rocky hill, just big enough for 2 people. Cole dove inside just as the rain reached the ground. He set Lyra down and watched the water pour from the sky like liquid fire. Steam rose from every surface it touched, and the jungle filled with the smell of burning leaves. They were trapped here until the storm passed. Lyra leaned against the cave wall and watched the rain with fascination. "We have nothing like this on my world," she said. Her translator was working well now, though her voice still sounded strange and mechanical through the device. "Your world sounds nice," Cole said. He was breathing hard and his muscles were shaking from exhaustion. "It is cold," she said, "and quiet. We do not have so many living things as this place." Cole sat down across from her. The cave was small and dark, but at least it was dry. He checked her leg to make sure the splint was still in place. The wound was red and swollen, which worried him. Infection was setting in. "I need to clean this again," he said. He opened his and found his last packet of antibiotics. He mixed it with water and gently applied it to her wound. She winced but did not cry out. "You are good at this," she said. "I have had a lot of practice." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the rain hiss and burn outside. Then Lyra spoke again. "Tell me about human families. How do they work?" Cole thought about it. "We are born to parents who raise us. We have brothers and sisters. We grow up together and then we make our own families." "And you love these people, your family?" "Yes, more than anything." She tilted her head, her bone ridges catching the dim light. "Do not have families like this. We are raised by the state. We are sorted into castes based on our abilities. We serve our purpose and nothing more." Cole felt a wave of sadness for her. "That sounds lonely." "I did not know it was lonely until now," she said quietly. "Until I saw how you treat me, an enemy. You carry me like I am something precious. I do not understand it." "You are something precious," Cole said. "Every life is precious." Lyra stared at him with those silver eyes, and Cole saw something change in her expression. It was like a door opening in her mind, like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. The rain continued to fall. Cole knew they would be stuck here for hours. He decided to search her belongings for anything that might help with her infection. She had a small bag strapped to her waist that had survived the crash. He opened it carefully. Inside, he found some dried food, a broken communication device, and a pendant on a silver chain. The pendant was made of some kind of crystal, and it glowed faintly in the darkness. Cole touched it, and a holographic image sprang to life above his hand. The image showed a grand throne room made of white stone and blue light. A tall male sat on the throne, wearing robes of silver and gold. He had the same bone ridges as Lyra, the same silver eyes. And standing beside him, wearing a crown of delicate crystal, was Lyra herself. Cole stared at the image. His mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. Then the pieces fell into place and the truth hit him like a punch to the stomach. The male on the throne was the Emperor, the ruler of the entire empire, the enemy of all humanity. And Lyra was his daughter. Cole turned to look at her. She was awake now, watching him with fear in her eyes. She had seen him find the pendant. She knew that he knew. "You are the princess," Cole said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "You are the daughter of the Emperor." Lyra nodded slowly. Tears began to fall from her silver eyes, leaving tracks of liquid light on her blue cheeks. "Yes, I am Princess Lyra Sora, third daughter of Emperor Thane." Cole sat back against the cave wall. His hands were shaking. He thought about what this meant. A princess in human hands would be the greatest prize of the entire war. The intelligence she carried in her head could save thousands of human lives. He could end his career as a hero. He could help win the war. But he had saved her life. He had carried her for miles through the jungle. She had protected him from her own people. They had talked and shared and started to understand each other. Could he really turn her over to be interrogated and used as a bargaining chip? Could he betray the trust she had placed in him? Lyra watched him struggle with the decision. The tears kept falling as she waited to learn her fate. "Now you know," she whispered. "Will you still carry me, human, or will you leave me here to die?" Cole looked at the pendant in his hand. The holographic image had faded, but the crystal still glowed softly. He thought about duty and honor. He thought about the war and all the people who had died. He thought about Emma and promises and what it meant to be a good person in a terrible situation. Then he put the pendant back in her bag without a word. He stood up and lifted her onto his back again. 10 more miles, he said. "We are not stopping now." Lyra wrapped her arms around his neck and pressed her face against his shoulder. He felt her tears soak through his uniform, but she said nothing. The rain began to slow outside. The burning sound faded and the jungle started to recover from the storm. Cole walked to the mouth of the cave and looked out at the steaming landscape. He was carrying an enemy princess through a war zone. He was probably committing treason. He might be executed for this when he got home. But when he thought about leaving her behind, something inside him refused. Some part of him that was deeper than duty, older than war. He stepped out into the wet jungle and started walking. 10 miles to go. He would worry about the rest later. Right now, he had someone to save. Dawn broke over the jungle and Cole kept walking. He had not slept in over 30 hours. His feet were bleeding inside his boots and his back felt like it was on fire. Every breath was a struggle and every step was an act of pure will. But he kept going. Lyra was awake now, her arms wrapped loosely around his neck. She had stopped crying hours ago, and now she just watched the jungle pass by with quiet wonder. Sometimes she would whisper something in her own language, too soft for the translator to catch. "How much further?" she asked. 5 miles, Cole said. His voice was rough and dry, maybe less. "You should rest." "I will rest when we get there." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I have been thinking about what you said, about every life being precious. And my people do not believe this. We are taught that individuals do not matter. Only the empire matters. Only the mission matters. A single life is nothing compared to the greater purpose." Cole thought about this as he walked. That sounds like a sad way to live. "I thought it was normal," Lyra said. "I thought everyone lived this way, but you do not. You risked your life for me. You are still risking your life. Why?" Cole did not have a good answer. He had asked himself the same question 100 times during the night. The best he could come up with was simple. "Because leaving you to die would have made me someone I do not want to be." Lyra was quiet for a long time after that. They moved through a valley filled with strange blue flowers that gave off a sweet smell. Cole was careful not to touch them because many plants on 4 were poisonous. The jungle was beautiful in its way, but everything here wanted to kill you. Then he heard the engines again, but this time there were more of them, many more. Cole dove behind a fallen tree and pressed himself flat against the ground. Lyra lay beside him, her silver eyes wide with fear. Through the leaves he could see half a dozen soldiers moving through the forest. They were not just patrolling, they were hunting, and they were close. "Elite hunters," Lyra whispered. Her voice was barely audible. "The best trackers in the Empire. My father sent them." "Your father knows you are missing." "Of course, I am his daughter. He would not rest until I am found." Cole's heart sank. He had hoped to reach the human outpost before anyone figured out who Lyra really was. Now it seemed like the entire military was looking for her. The hunters moved through the jungle in a perfect formation. Their silver armor caught the morning light, and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Cole held his breath as they passed within 20 feet of his hiding spot. Lyra pressed herself against him, her cool skin trembling with fear. One of the hunters stopped. He tilted his head and seemed to sniff the air. Then he looked directly at the fallen tree where Cole and Lyra were hiding. Cole's hand went to his knife. It was a useless gesture. He could not fight 6 elite soldiers with a combat knife. but he would die trying before he let them take Lyra. The hunter took a step toward them, then another. His silver eyes scanned the undergrowth and his hand rested on his weapon. A distant sound made him stop. It was gunfire, human gunfire. The hunter spoke into his communicator and the whole squad turned toward the sound. They moved off through the jungle, fast and silent, heading toward whatever battle was happening in the distance. Cole waited until he could no longer hear their footsteps. Then he let out a long breath and started shaking. That had been too close, far too close. "We need to move," he said, "now." He lifted Lyra onto his back and started running. His body screamed in protest, but he ignored it. The gunfire meant human soldiers were nearby. If he could reach them before they might have a chance. He ran through the jungle, dodging trees and jumping over roots. Lyra held on tight and whispered encouragement in his ear. The gunfire grew louder and louder until finally he burst out of the tree line into a wide clearing. And stopped. The clearing was surrounded. On one side, human soldiers crouched behind fallen logs and makeshift barriers. On the other side, the hunters had formed a line with weapons raised. Both groups were pointing their guns at the jungle, waiting for the other to make a move. And in the middle of it all stood Cole, with a princess on his back. Everyone turned to look at him. Human and alike stared at the exhausted medic carrying a wounded alien girl. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then the commander stepped forward. He was tall and cold, with scars running down his face and eyes like chips of ice. "Put down the princess," he said. His English was perfect. "Surrender now and you may be treated as a prisoner of war." Cole did not move. His legs were shaking so badly he could barely stand. But he planted his feet and faced the commander. "No." The commander's eyes narrowed. "You cannot win this, human. You are outnumbered, and give us the princess and we will let you live." "I said no." Lyra stirred on his back. She was trying to say something, but Cole could not hear her over the pounding of his heart. The human soldiers watched in confusion. Lieutenant Kate, the ranking officer, called out to him. "What are you doing? Who is that?" Cole did not answer her either. He just stood there, shielding Lyra with his body, waiting to see what would happen next. Then Lyra spoke. She slid off his back and stood on her broken leg, crying out in pain but refusing to fall. She faced the commander and spoke in her own language, her voice ringing across the clearing with authority. The commander's face went pale. He lowered his weapon and dropped to one knee. The other hunters did the same. Lyra turned to face both groups. Her silver eyes were bright with tears and determination. "I am Princess Lyra Sara," she announced, switching to English so everyone could understand. "Third daughter of Emperor Thane, and this human is under my personal protection." The clearing fell completely silent. Cole stared at her in amazement. She had just put herself between him and her own people. She had just risked everything to keep him safe. The commander rose slowly. "Your Highness, I must insist." "You will insist nothing," Lyra said. Her voice was cold as winter. "I am your princess. You will obey." And then the human reinforcements arrived, pouring out of the jungle on the opposite side of the clearing. Suddenly there were dozens of soldiers on each side, all with weapons drawn, all waiting for someone to fire the first shot. Lyra stood in the middle of it all, a wounded princess holding two armies at bay with nothing but her will. And Cole realized that everything was about to change. The clearing was silent except for the hum of weapons and the distant calls of jungle birds. Two armies faced each other across the trampled grass, ready to fight, ready to die. One wrong word could start a massacre. Lyra stood between them. She limped forward on her broken leg, refusing help from anyone. Her pale blue skin was dirty and streaked with dried blood. Her white hair was tangled and matted. She looked nothing like a princess. But when she spoke, everyone listened. "I want you all to hear what I have to say," she announced. Her translator carried her words in both languages so that and human alike could understand. I was shot down over this jungle 2 days ago. I was wounded and dying. And this man, this human soldier, found me. She turned and pointed at Cole, who stood swaying with exhaustion behind her. He did not kill me. He did not leave me to die. He carried me on his back for 20 miles through hostile territory. He treated my wounds with his own medicine. He protected me from predators and storms. He did all of this knowing that I was his enemy, knowing that my people have killed his people, knowing that he would gain nothing from saving me. The soldiers on both sides shifted uneasily. Nobody had expected this. I asked him why, Lyra continued. I asked him over and over again, why save an enemy? Why risk everything for someone who should mean nothing to you? She paused and looked at Cole. Tears were running down her cheeks again, but her voice stayed strong. He told me that every life is precious. He told me that leaving me to die would make him someone he did not want to be. He showed me kindness and mercy when he had every reason to show me hatred. The commander spoke up. Your Highness, this changes nothing. He is still our enemy. The war is still. The war is wrong, Lyra said sharply. I have always known this, but I was afraid to say it. We fight because we fear each other. We hate because we do not understand. But I have spent 2 days with this human, and he has taught me more about honor than my entire life in the imperial court. She turned to face her own soldiers. If one human can show such mercy to an enemy, then perhaps we have been wrong about their species. Perhaps we have been wrong about many things. She raised her hand and activated her communicator. A holographic display appeared, connecting her to the Imperial flagship in orbit above the planet. Father, she said, can you hear me? The image flickered, and then the Emperor himself appeared. He was tall and stern, with the same bone ridges as his daughter and eyes that had seen centuries of war. His expression was worried and angry at the same time. Lyra, you are alive, my hunters reported. I am alive because of a human, Father. He saved me when he could have let me die. He carried me through the jungle for 20 miles. He protected me when your own hunters nearly caught us. The Emperor's eyes moved to look at Cole. His expression was unreadable. I am calling for a ceasefire, Lyra said. Here now on this planet. I am asking you to meet with the human leaders. I am asking you to consider peace. The clearing erupted in murmurs. Human soldiers looked at each other in shock. Hunters exchanged uncertain glances. You ask too much, the Emperor said slowly. You ask me to end a war because of one man. I ask you to remember what we are fighting for, Lyra replied. Power, territory, pride. Is any of that worth more than the chance for peace? The Emperor was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with exhaustion. I have been fighting humans for 3 years. I have lost ships and soldiers and colonies. I have grown so tired of this war that I no longer remember what victory would even mean. He looked at Cole again. Human, my daughter says you saved her life. Is this true? Cole stepped forward on shaking legs. Yes, sir. I found her wounded in a crashed ship. I could not leave her to die. Why not? She is your enemy. Cole thought about the question. He thought about Emma and about duty and about all the miles he had walked through that terrible jungle. Then he gave the only answer that made sense. She was hurt, she needed help. Everything else was just details. The Emperor stared at him for what felt like an eternity. Then something changed in his ancient face. A softening, a crack in the armor of centuries. You speak like a fool, he said quietly, but perhaps that is what makes you brave. He turned to address his soldiers through the hologram. Stand down, all forces stand down. There will be no fighting today. The hunters lowered their weapons. After a long pause, the human soldiers did the same. Lieutenant approached Cole with wonder in her eyes. What the hell just happened? I honestly do not know, Cole admitted. I just did not want her to die. Lyra limped over to him. Her leg was bleeding through the bandages and her face was pale with pain, but she was smiling. It was the first time he had seen her smile, and it transformed her alien features into something beautiful. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. What happens now?" "Now we talk. Now we try to find a way to end this war. It will not be easy. There is too much anger on both sides, but we have to try." A medical team arrived to tend to her wounds. Before they took her away, she reached into her bag and pulled out the crystal pendant. She pressed it into Cole's hands. "Keep this," she said, "so you remember that enemies can become friends." Cole looked at the pendant. The crystal glowed softly in the morning light. "I will remember," he promised. 6 months later, formal peace negotiations began on a neutral space station between Terran and Territory. It was a difficult process, full of anger and old wounds. But slowly, carefully, the two sides began to find common ground. Cole was asked to testify before the assembled delegates. He told them about the crash and the jungle and the 20 miles he walked with Lyra on his back. He told them about her kindness and courage. He told them about the moment in the clearing when a wounded princess stood between two armies and demanded peace. When he was finished, a delegate asked him what he had learned from the experience. Cole thought for a moment. Then he said, "I learned that we are more alike than we are different. I learned that kindness is stronger than hate. And I learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is help someone when everyone says you should not." The delegates were silent. Then one by one they began to applaud. On the Imperial, Lyra watched the broadcast from her chambers. She touched the scar on her leg, a permanent reminder of those 2 terrible, wonderful days in the jungle. She thought about the human medic who had carried her for 20 miles. She thought about his stubborn refusal to let her die. Her father entered the room and stood beside her. "You have changed things, daughter," he said. "The whole empire is talking about the human who saved you." "His name is Cole," she said softly. "Cole." "I know, I have read the reports." The Emperor paused. "Do you truly believe peace is possible?" Lyra smiled. "I believe that if one man can carry an enemy through a jungle for 20 miles, then anything is possible." The Emperor looked at the screen where Cole was finishing his testimony. Then he nodded slowly. "Perhaps you are right. Perhaps it is time we stopped fighting and started understanding." Outside the window, the stars shone cold and bright. Somewhere among them, two peoples who had been killing each other for years were learning to talk instead. It would take time. It would take patience. But it had started with a single act of kindness in a burning jungle. A human medic had saved an alien princess. And the galaxy would never be the same.